recognize the second to the last resource person to give an opening statement, Mr. Orion Perez Dundum, Chairperson of Correct Movement. Please proceed and please make it brief.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Please, I'd like to see the slides flashed on the screen, please. All right, thank you. So I am representing the Correct Movement, and we are talking about 3 different reforms, but we will focus on economic liberalization and the removal of anti-foreign direct investment restrictions today. Next slide, please. Okay, next slide again. All right, I wanted to show this very important slide, which shows a quote from the book From Third World to First, which explains and contradicts the false narrative that some sectors have been trying to spread, saying that Singapore was a protectionist country, and then only when they became rich, due to protectionism, did they open up to foreign direct investors. That is not true. So here, the late Lee Kuan Yew says, "We did not have a large group of ready-made entrepreneurs such as Hong Kong gained in the Chinese industrialists and bankers who came fleeing from Shanghai, Canton, and other cities when the communists took over. Had we waited for our own traders to learn to become industrialists, we would have starved. It is absurd for critics to suggest in the 1990s that had we grown our own entrepreneurs, we would have been less at the mercy of the ruthless MNCs. Even with the experienced talent Hong Kong received in Chinese refugees, its manufacturing technology level is not in the same class as that of the MNCs in Singapore. This proves that Singapore, under Lee Kuan Yew, used FDI attraction as their means of industrializing." Next slide, please. All right. The accepted wisdom of development economists at the time was that MNCs were exploiters of cheap land, labor, and raw materials. This dependency school of economists argued that MNCs continued the colonial pattern of exploitation that left the developing countries selling raw materials to and buying consumer goods from the advanced countries. MNCs controlled technology and consumer preferences and formed alliances with their host governments to exploit the people and keep them down. Third world leaders believed this theory of neo-colonialist exploitation, but Keng Swee and I, that's Goh Keng Swee, the finance minister and also defense minister at the time, Goh Keng Swee and I were not impressed. We had a real-life problem to solve and could not afford to be conscribed by any theory or dogma. Anyway, Singapore had no natural resources for MNCs to exploit. All it had were hard-working people, good basic infrastructure, and a government that was determined to be honest and competent. Our duty was to create a livelihood for 2 million Singaporeans. If MNCs could give our workers employment and teach them technical and engineering skills and management know-how, we should bring in the MNCs. Next slide, please. All right, so not only Singapore was talking about bringing in foreign direct investors, but Malaysia as well under Dr. Mahathir Mohamad. Managing a manufacturing industry is very difficult, and there was no substantial industry in Malaysia at the time that we could take our lessons from. We went for foreign investments because we did not have locals who were willing to take the leap. Locals wanted to stay within their comfort zones. When there is no competition in the mix, it is easy to get away with low quality, bad management, dirty processes, and inefficiency. But in a competitive environment, you must always be on guard. You have to look for ways to improve your product and be more cost efficient. If you do not, you can be very sure that your competitors will be doing exactly that. Tax protection may provide some comfort, but it should not make things too easy and discourage effort. It should certainly not cultivate bad attitudes and habits. Now, this comes from the Memoirs of Mahathir Mohamad, which is a doctor in the house. Next slide, please. Okay. Another one from Dr. Mahathir's memoirs. Creating jobs, especially by implementing policies that encourage the creation of private sector work opportunities, is the proper role of government. That was why, when Malaysia invited foreign investment, we did not insist on immediately collecting taxes. We were prepared to forego taxes if the investors created jobs for our people. In our view, no one who is prepared to work should remain unemployed. In fact, the government was so successful in creating jobs that there are now more than 2 million foreign workers in the country. We cannot ourselves meet the demand for labor that our own economic development has generated. All right, next slide, please. All right, the next slide shows that nevertheless, the increase in foreign investments helped to create jobs and so lowered the unemployment rate, which was high at the time. Our approach differed from those of Japan and Korea, where the preference was for acquiring foreign technology for investment by the locals. We did not have local entrepreneurs with the money or the willingness to invest in industries they were not familiar with. It was only after many years that the Malaysians acquired the knowledge and industrial skills to invest in manufacturing. Thus, it was through FDI that we succeeded in converting our agricultural economy into an industrial economy and eventually solving our unemployment problem. Okay, so this proves both Singapore and Malaysia used FDI to industrialize. Now let's have a local example. A tycoon, the late John Gokong Wei Jr., who was pro-constitutional reform. He said, we had the same, this was written in 2006, by the way. We had the same per capita income as Thailand 20 years ago. Now they are 2.5 times bigger than us. Malaysia is 4 times bigger, and Indonesia, which had half our per capita then, is now our equal. In 5 to 6 years, I think Vietnam will match or even surpass us. Well, they already have surpassed us in 2021. Everybody else is passing us by. That is what worries me. And my last slide for this, let's move to the next. It's hard to open up the economy without amending the Constitution. I agree that mining and real estate should be open to everybody because you need foreign capital to help any country develop its economy. Look at China. It is getting a lot of direct foreign investments. So, Your Honors and Mr. Chair, I just wanted to show all of these as proof that bringing in foreign direct investors is something that a lot of countries do, Singapore and Malaysia, just being the top 2 among them in this region. And then, of course, there's Vietnam. And then we even have tycoons pushing for this. He's not the only one. The members of the Federation of Filipino-Chinese Chambers of Commerce and Industry are also for the opening up to FDI. So thank you very much, everyone. That's all I wanted to say today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Orion Dumdum. Floor
Mr.
Leader.
Chairman, I move that we recognize